We got a big Thursday show on tap. NBA Finals tip-off tonight, a thriller in the College World Series, and the Oilers are up in the Stanley Cup Final. Let's go on a Thursday.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is up.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the, I guess it was nice edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL, good morning in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, and Inforum.com. Happy Thursday, everybody. 5th day of June. Ready to rock and roll. You know, the Twins start playing some good baseball, and then, of course, the rug's got to get pulled out from underneath them. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show on the 5th day of June, 2025, on a action-packed day. I got a feeling we said yesterday on the show that there was going to be some mid-major realignment news, and there was, which we'll share later on. And now the ball's rolling. So it's between now and June 30, next 25 days, buckle up. There's going to be some stuff happening that could affect right here in our own backyard. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We got a lot to get to, as I mentioned in our show tease here. We'll show you the Twins and their victory last night over the Sacramento A's coming up here in just a few minutes. Had a heck of a hockey game last night to start the Stanley Cup Final. We can only hope the NBA Finals, which tip off tonight in OKC, will give us that kind of drama. Heck, I'd take the kind of drama we had in the softball championship series opener last night between Texas and Texas Tech in the same city where the NBA Finals are tipping off. A lot to get to today. We were on the air yesterday with the news on Jake Schaffner's departure from the Bison baseball team, and they got ravaged. There's no other way to look at it. NDSU's 6 best players are gone that were eligible to return, which we'll detail that coming up later on in the show. It's the name of the game. I don't know if anybody really likes it, but this is where we're at, and I'll address that coming up later on in our program this morning. Let's rock and roll with the Twins last night, playing their 3rd of 4 against the Athletics. They had scored 20 runs in the first 2 games of this series. They're benefited by the fact that right now the A's can't get out of their own way, that they've lost, I believe now it is 9 in a row, and they added to it last night with an offense that is clicking right now. Ryan Jeffers led off here with a blast to left center. Again, the dimensions of this ballpark are not necessarily major league-esque. So the ball flies out of there, and the Twins are taking advantage. Harrison Bader add to it in the top half of the 5th with a 2-run shot. His 6th of the year. It's a 3-0 Minnesota lead. It's been a long year for Sacramento. Louis Varland got out of a jam in the bottom of the 6th with 2 runners on, kept it a 3-1 Minnesota score. Griffin Jacks in the 7th struck out the side against the A's. Looked like back his old self that we're used to. His ERA still, though, at 4.33. He may never recover after the beating he took early on in the year. So it remained a 3-1 game until the top of the 8th when Trevor Larnach will deliver. He gets Ryan Jeffers to come in and score on the air out in center field. Committed by Denzel Clark. It's not great. It's, again, the A's are buffing around out there. It's not a good situation. That made it a 4-1 Minnesota lead. Willie Castro would add to the pain with this hit to left, just out. That would make it a 5-1 game. Jeffers would come up again. Ryan had a nice game last night in the top of the ninth to give them some insurance. He comes through with a base hit to right to score Christian Vasquez. That would make it a 6-1 Minnesota lead. It wasn't a save situation, but they needed Duran to get some innings last night. He would come in and close the door, striking out 2. And the Twins have won the first 3 games of this series, a 6-1 final last night. They're now 5-4 on this 3-city road trip where they lost 2 of 3 in Tampa. They lost 2 of 3 in Seattle, but they've won 3 in a row against Sacramento. Zebby Matthews picks up his first win of the season, going 5 innings. He was one of 5 pitchers that the Twins used last night, improving to 7 games over 500. Meanwhile, for Sacramento, they have lost now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yet 9 in a row after the loss last night. Twins will go for a series win. It's a matinee today to wrap it up. David Festa has been called up. He will pitch in the finale. Mitch Spence, that sounds like a made-up name, is the guy pitching for the A's today with a mark of 1-1, ERA of 4.38 will go for Sacramento. Now, the news, not all great on the Twins, and we showed it to you on yesterday morning's show. If you didn't stay up, as Pablo Lopez was through 5 innings in the game on Tuesday, was pitching well, and you'll see it here in the warm-up tosses that he had to start the bottom of the 6th inning, that something was up. And unfortunately, it's something major that is up with the Twins' number 1 starter. The release came out at 10:26 last night, right when our sportscast starts, that he's been diagnosed with a grade 2 strain of the teres major muscle in his throwing shoulder. He's expected to be sidelined for approximately 8 to 12 weeks. The earliest he would begin a throwing program would be 4 weeks from now, with no further updates expected until that point. The Minnesota Twins and their performance staff will continue to evaluate his recovery timeline based on his progress through the rehab process. And again, if you could see the video again, if we could play it, he initiates the conversation with the dugout because you know he can sense something is immediately not great. And we played his sound yesterday after the game. It's right here where he initiates to the dugout, say, you know what, someone better come out here because something's not feeling right. Unfortunately, Twins and their fans know all about this injury. This is the same one that Joe Ryan had last season. Experienced that, I believe, in Chicago and was done for the rest of the season. So we're talking 2 to 3 months. It's June 5th. So at the earliest, August, the latest, maybe September. It could be the year. Not great. Again, this is what he said after the game. In my head, I'm like, well, if it feels sore, if I try to make a max effort pitch to get the inning started, who knows what could happen. Those split-second scenarios where you start hearing both sides, oh, just power through it, it's nothing, or it could be something terrible, and it's something terrible. So if recovery goes somewhat well, he could pitch again this season, but the diagnosis is not great. This is a guy who's already had some major arm surgery when he was a member of the Marlins before he was traded to Minnesota. He said the Brent Rooker at bat, the second pitch was an 0-1 sinker that kind of sailed on me. Right at the very end, I felt something tighten up on him. Got a 2.82 earned run average, picked up his 5th win, and now he's going to be out for a bit. He said his diagnosis is, quote, a little bit of a relief. This is from the Star Tribune. Obviously, you don't want to hear anything arm-related, shoulder-related, but it's also a relief that I never felt like a big pop or anything, which I feel like that what could have happened had I been a little more stubborn and tried to pitch the bottom of the 6th inning. It's not the greatest news to hear. You have to deal with it, but if there's a silver lining, it wasn't the posterior cuff or that I didn't feel anything blowing up, which, again, that's worst-case scenario, and we're talking out for probably a year. As it is, now the Twins' rotation becomes that much different that Paddock is going to have to become even more of a horse than he's been over the last, I'd say, month and a half. Paddock's been pretty good, but that elevates everybody up. You know, Ryan, Bailey Ober, Paddock, Zebby, and Festa. That's what the Twins are going to roll with here. And you look at their next stretch, they'll come back home after this game today. And Corey Provis talked to us about this a couple weeks ago when he was last joining us. They're not playing any division games here for a bit. They've got Toronto this weekend, then Texas. They go to Houston and Cincinnati, the Brewers in the middle of June, then the Mariners. And then it's not till the end of the month. It's not till 3 weeks from tomorrow they play Detroit. And we know what the Tigers are doing right now. And even that, it's a brief series. Then they play the Marlins, the Rays, the Cubs, and the Pirates, and we're to the All-Star break. So they have one series against the division coming up, which I granted, you don't want to scuffle against teams not in your division, but it's important to note that the teams that they're in their own division, they're not seeing again until after the All-Star break. Not sure if it's good news or bad, but the Twins are going to have to go at least till early August without Pablo Lopez. Tough news there. Last night we got the puck drop on Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final in Edmonton. We previewed it yesterday. Rematch. First time we had a Cup Final rematch in 16 years. This time, Edmonton had the home ice as opposed to last year where the Panthers had home ice advantage. And if this was a precursor of what we're going to get, sign me up for the next 6 games because this was fabulous last night. Oilers struck first just a minute, 15 seconds into the game. Leon Draisaitl on a rebound out in front, pounces on it, makes it a 1-0 Oilers lead, beating Sergei Bobrovsky. The Panthers even it up at 1. Then Brad Marchand will score on the power play, make it a 2-1 Florida lead after 1. Nifty pass and just waited it out to score on Stuart Skinner. That was the score into the second, and you don't want this guy to get loose. Sam Bennett has been tremendous in the postseason. He comes in, his 12th goal of the playoffs, second of the game, and Florida has built a 2-goal lead on the road. But the Oilers come back. Victor Arvidsson blasts one to beat Bobrovsky just a minute after the Panthers scored. It's a 3-2 game going to the third. The Oilers would tie it up here. What a nifty pass by McDavid. Matthias Ekholm will blast it home, and the game is tied up at 3. Through a screen there, Bobrovsky never saw it, and we're knotted up at 3. Panthers had a chance here to take the lead. Skinner with a dynamite pad save down low after a terrible giveaway. That kept the game tied up at 3. Game goes to overtime. Oilers had a chance to win it here, and Bobrovsky comes up with a fabulous save on a mini breakaway. That's fantastic with the pad. And we stay 3-3. 2 minutes to go. Again, an odd man rush here for Edmonton. And Bobrovsky makes another dynamite save to keep the game tied up. Again, like I said, if we're going to have this for all the games in the series, let's go. Here, a critical play. The puck goes out of play. That's a penalty. You can't do that. And so the Oilers will get a power play. And that's not what you want to do. McDavid sets up Draisaitl, who wins it there, his second of the game. And Edmonton takes game 1. McDavid with another pretty cool night on the ice. 2 monster assists on the game-tying and the game-winning goal. And Edmonton takes game 1. Remember, Florida took the first 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final last year. The Panthers have been unbeaten when leading after either the first or the second period. 31-0. But the Oilers win it, and after falling behind Edmonton lost game 1 against Dallas. Now they've won 5 in a row. They ripped off 4 straight wins to eliminate the Stars in the Western Conference Final, and now they take game 1 of the series. 1 day off, and they're back tomorrow night for game 2, 7 o'clock in Edmonton. That scene was fantastic last night there, as we expect it will be for the duration, especially when the series goes to South Florida. That will shift. No games over the weekend. They don't want to conflict, apparently, with the NBA. They're trying to work their way around that. So game 3 not till Monday in Sunrise, Florida. Big win there for the Panthers. Last thing before we get going here on a busy Thursday show. We chatted about it yesterday. We knew that one Bison baseball player had gone into the portal when we were on the air, and that was maybe NDSU's best, and Jake Schaffner. He was not alone yesterday. As it played out, 5 more Bison entered the portal. Nolan Johnson, the Summit League Pitcher of the Year, tournament MVP, is gone. Not alone on that. They kept racking him up. Danny Lockenmeyer, outstanding reliever, freshman, who was the Summit League first-team selection. He's gone. Schaffner, 2-time first-team Summit League selection over the last 2 years. He's gone. Not alone there. Logan Knight, Summit League second-team selection. He was the guy who got the win over Kansas at the NCAA tournament over the weekend. He's in the portal with a couple years of eligibility. Landon Koenig, Mayport CG's standout, who became one of the long relievers of the Bison this year. He was the number 3 starter a year ago. He's gone. Davis Hamilton, who had an unbelievable weekend. I believe had 4 runs driven in the loss to Creighton. He's gone as well. So 6 total as of now. And you can't argue. Those are their 6 best players. There's no trying to make this blue skies or rosy glasses here. There's 6 of them that are their best players. And I had a couple comments already today saying, tell me again the portal is a good thing. And I've had this discussion for the last 3 years. What's the alternative? The alternative is there was no movement, so you give me something in the middle that we can all sign off on, because there was no guardrails put up on this. Players they either had no movement or all. We never got to the middle. And here it's at. I would tell you, I've always been in support of players being able to move and better themselves. Schaffner's going to get paid, from what I was told yesterday, north of 6 figures. He's going to make a lot of money somewhere. The rest, we'll see. I think they all could get some sizable money. I don't think to the extent of what Schaffner will earn, but if you're Tyler Oaks, assistant coach Brandon Hunt, it's tough. That's a gut punch day that they had on Tuesday and Wednesday after a great run, thinking we are positioned that maybe we can do this again next year. Now you've got to restart over. And for those that thought, well, baseball and softball, that can't happen there like it does in football and basketball, I'm here to tell you, this has happened. It's only the Bison had a great year, a surprise year, right? 20-32 on the surface. Like, well, Dom, that wasn't great. Again, reminder, they play the hardest non-conference schedule in the country. And how did they get to the NCAA tournament? By pitching and defense. Their 2 top starters were electric. You don't think that got somebody's notice? Schaffner, not only the fact that he's a dynamite hitter, was also the defensive player of the year. That's going to be coveted. And unfortunately now the Bison have to regroup here. They have some players coming in that they really like of a freshman class. They can be choosy in the portal as well of guys that they want to go and add. But there's work to be done there. We got some emails on that we'll get to later on in the show. We got a packed guest lineup here brought to you by Northwestern Mutual on this Thursday morning. Big news also yesterday out of NDSU is they're going to need a new men's golf coach. Steve Kennedy announced he's going to retire after 12 seasons of leading the Bison. 18 years before that, he was the head coach at Fargo South. He coached a guy you may know named Hoagie. We'll visit with Coach Kennedy about what he's going to do now coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, our guy Sam Goetzinger will be back with us. Sam's been on the road the last couple weeks, so be good to catch up with him after calling track and baseball the last 2 weeks. He'll join us coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, Jory Collins will be back with us, NDSU women's basketball head coach. After the last 2 months have gone by in a flash, the Bison last played a game on March 31st. It's been an active offseason. They've added a couple players. Found out yesterday the Big Sky Summit League Challenge games. NDSU knows they're going to get Montana State, who won the Big Sky last year, will be coming to the Shack in December. We'll talk with Jory about that and a bunch of other topics coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Thursday. We're just getting started. We come back. Thriller in Oklahoma City last night in Game 1 of the Women's College World Series and a bunch more. Back on Hot Mic on this Thursday morning, right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Thursday morning show off and rolling here. Steve Kennedy going to join us in about 10 minutes' time. Chat his outstanding golf coaching career, whether it was at Fargo South, where they won 12 titles in an 18-year stretch, of course, at NDSU over the last 12 years as well, where the Bison captured their first Summit League championship about 7 years ago now. That's coming up here in just a few minutes. Okay, we got to get to a couple other things here. Last night, I had the hockey game on after the softball game wrapped up last night, and it was everything we'd hope that the Women's College World Series matchup would be. Texas against Texas A&M. Nyjah Kennedy is the standout for Texas Tech. She's the $1 million transfer, just talked about it, that went from Stanford into the portal last year. Texas Tech paid her $1 million to come there to pitch for the Red Raiders. All she's done is get Texas Tech to the Women's College World Series for the first time, and then on top of that, make the championship round facing Texas, who has never won a game in the championship series, beaten by Oklahoma each time that they had made it there. That was the backstory for this series, and we had a fabulous game last night. Kennedy here at the plate, hits it to third, grounds into a nifty 5-2-3 double play to get out of a jam. Controversy reigns again, Hill, in the top of the fifth. Remember, we had the play earlier in the week where the UCLA player missed home. Here, we get obstruction called on the Texas shortstop trying to make a tag at second. Again, by the letter of the law, apparently it's obstruction, but that's not obstruction. It was reviewed. The runner is then called safe. That leads up to Maya Davis. And, of course, what's going to happen? Bloops one into right. That's going to allow the first run of the game to score. And Texas Tech leads it 1-0. Now, dynamite play here. Reese Atwood at the plate. Going to be intentionally walked. Kennedy, it's a 3-0 count. Atwood decides to swing away and rips it to left. And both runs are going to come in to score and give Texas the lead at 2-1. Again, those pitches were kind of median, not that far away from the plate. Atwood decided she was swinging away. So top of the seventh now. 2 outs. This the final out, and Texas rallies and beats Texas Tech 2-1 to give them a 1-zip lead in the best-of-3 series. They'll have a chance to win the championship tonight in OKC. 2 things in that game last night. 1, the obstruction call was not obstruction. By the letter of the law, apparently it was. But that's not, she's not interfering with her trying to get to the bag. Apparently, according to the umpires, the shortstop plants her left foot in the running lane, making it obstruction. Okay. We've seen less not called. That review. Thankfully, that wasn't the final score of the game, because today we'd be talking about that nonstop. Everyone would be. Second, on the intentional walk, those pitches, first off, softball does not have the same rule, obviously, as Major League Baseball, where they don't have to actually pitch to the batter. You look at those couple pitches before Kennedy swung; those were not far off the plate. Give credit to Atwood for heads up, and that was her first hit of the Women's College World Series. Came at a huge time. So Game 2 coming up tonight. We'll preview that before the show wraps up. We mentioned yesterday in the world of realignment news that Utah Valley, which we had expected, the Summit League was flirting with Utah Valley, as we reported, but they made it official that they're going to go to the Big West Conference. And they're going to take their some odd 40,000 student enrollment with them. Utah Valley actually played both the Bison and UND in men's hoops last year. They lost to the Bison, the Thanksgiving tournament they played down in Sanford, Alabama. They split with the Fighting Hawks, lost in Grand Forks, and won in Orem. That's their arena has undergone a massive reconstruction because they used to play in a hole. It's pretty nice now what they have. And that becomes the 11th school in the Big West. And it was interesting, the phrasing of the release yesterday said that there is potential of adding a 12th member. And if you want to draw 2 and 2 together, that's Sacramento State, folks. Sac State yesterday in the Big Sky Summit League release, Sac State is not in there. Now, every year the Big Sky has to have a team not play because the Summit only has 9 schools. They're not part of that mix. So, again, draw your own conclusions on that. I think Sac State is donezo with the Big Sky. Might be sooner than we thought. Now, why is this relevant to what we're talking about here? Here's the reason. Utah Valley is in the WAC for, well, another little bit here. Another 12 months. They'll officially leave July 1 of 2026. Why that's important is because the WAC is now does not have enough members to be NCAA postseason eligible. This map will show you exactly what we're talking about. So the WAC has now officially lost Seattle up there in the top left. They're going to the West Coast Conference. Cal Baptist, CBU, they're going to the Big West, much like now Utah Valley, which is the big green-looking Wolverine. Grand Canyon, we know, is out. They're leaving for the Mountain West. So if you take, granted, not great at math, but if you minus 4 of those, that leaves you Southern Utah, Utah Tech, and then the 3 Texas schools. What have we talked about? About the Missouri Valley and the Summit League going to add. Now, I'm not great on geography. I'm better than Sam, but if I'm the new commissioner of the Missouri Valley Football Conference and Jeff Jackson, I'm looking at those schools in Texas saying, let's go. Total offense to Southern Utah and Utah Tech. I don't want any part to do with those. Those schools for football and basketball, do it. Because all of a sudden, Kansas City and Oral Roberts have some better travel partners down there. Omaha is actually not that far away. Denver, it helps. And I know Denver would help with Southern Utah and Utah Tech. Go get Abilene Christian, Tarleton State, and UT Arlington is the other one. They're the Mavericks. They do not sponsor football. It's just sitting there for the Summit League. The Summit then would go from 9 to 12. Football would be at 11, but football, you don't need an even number. Actually, football go to 12, which you could do divisions if you wanted to, which I don't know if they want. That's something that probably going to discuss as the summer goes on, but that's the opportunity right there. I'll save that because I go down and I could talk about for 2 hours and people's eyes would roll to the back of their heads. But that's what's potentially out there. Just you need to see it now to actually realize it. Let's break. We come back. Steve Kennedy will join us, now retired NDSU men's golf coach, on an outstanding 40-year career coaching golf. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns on a Thursday morning. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on a busy Thursday morning. Bison women's basketball coach Jory Collins is going to join us in about an hour, get an update on the offseason going for NDSU women's hoops. Got the email yesterday, and immediately I was super excited for our next guest, but also sense of melancholy because I love talking. It was actually, I think, a year ago to the day last time we had him on the show, so there's something must be with June the 5th to talk with our next guest, but he has been a staple on local golf courses for 4 decades, and finally he's going to earn a chance to relax and not have to drive around, whether it's Rose Creek or Oxbow, wherever it is. Steve Kennedy joins us. Now I could say retired NDSU men's golf coach. I was joking with you off air. Your emails still work? You still got keys to the building?
They haven't shut me off yet. No, I'm going to be here around to help out a little bit until July 1st.
How long you been thinking about this?
I would say about 6 months. I think it was one of the trips where we had a little problem in the airport and stuff like that, and I thought, it's about time for me to be done with this stuff.
Yeah. We talked baseball, got all the attention here this week of all the miles they logged, and they did. You guys are right up there. I mean, that's what people probably don't know. Give us, pull the curtain back on travel of what it's like, because your team went to New York, you went to Arizona, you went everywhere this past season.
Yeah, I think last year I spent 51 days away from home just for tournaments. So that's not counting recruiting. So it was about 2 months that I was away. And that just seemed like it was starting to wear on me a little bit. And I like being with my wife, so I want to spend some more time with her.
Describe 12 years of what you want. I remember interviewing you when you got the job of obviously you wanted to make sure the best local talent was going to come to North Dakota State. You feel like you accomplished that?
Yeah, I do. I think, the guys that we targeted around the area, I think that they ended up here. I think the big signing that we had, Dom, was Andrew Israelson. Once Andrew decided to come here, it kind of changed our program, and everybody knew that we were going to be a contender. And since then, we've gotten the local guys that we wanted, and the guys from Minneapolis came here. And I remember talking to one of the head lead teachers down in Minneapolis about a year and a half ago, and he said that one of the coolest things was that when he asked people where they wanted to go, they would say North Dakota State. And that kind of meant a lot.
What was it about Andrew's commitment, Steve, that changed everything? He was a tremendous player and was an unbelievable college player. But what was it that made others say, we got to go and come to Fargo?
I think it was, playing in the summer tournaments. If you've ever been around Izzy's a talker, and he bought into our program, and he would go out and he would just promote the heck out of it. And I think that was the biggest thing.
The 2018 championship, which obviously he was a major part of, what did that do? How did that change things to win the Summit League title that year?
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, the women won it the week before we did.
That's right.
And then we came back and won that, and that also changed things. We started to be the program that everybody looked at in the Summit League, and so I think ever since then we've been in the top. I don't think we finished worse than 4th in the Summit League. So it's been a good run.
The level of player, how much has that changed as well? The guys that you've looked at said maybe in your first couple years, how different is it now in the last 3 of the level of player that you're trying to get here to come to NDSU?
Yeah, it's getting a little bit tougher right now, Dom, to be honest with you, because with St. Thomas coming into the league and being a Division I program, they're down in the cities all the time, and so they can talk to those kids a lot more. So it's getting a little bit tougher, but the guys we have coming in next year, I think they're ranked. They're tied for number 1 and number 4 in the state right now. So we're looking like we have some good talent coming in, and hopefully they'll fill in with the guys that are here. And we've got a lot of talent coming back.
When did you tell the guys? How long ago did they know?
Monday night. Yeah, that was a tough one.
What was that? Tell me about that conversation and their reaction.
Well, I called them, and we were all on a call together, and I said, I think you know what's coming. And they go, no, what? I said, I'm going to retire. And there was not a word said.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no preparation for that, right? There's no guidebook you've done coaching for 4 decades. There's nothing really to prepare for that, is there?
No, there's not. Sorry, I'm a little emotional.
No, that's perfectly fine. It's a long road. Tell me the moments that we don't see. You're out there. You're out there coaching, practicing. That's the part I'm sure that probably means the most, right? Give us the curtain back, because we only see the finished product on the course. Steve, what about those moments of practice or in the airport that means so much?
There's so many good memories of just the fun that we had, the jokes that were told. I remember one of my favorite ones was Beck Earholtz. We were on the range one day, and we were talking about playing basketball, and we said something about playing full court, and Beck looked at me and he says, "Coach, I'm not a full court guy. I'm more of a food court guy." It was like that all the time. I mean, we had so many good times and so many laughs over the years.
Well, Beck's fantastic. First off, his attire on the course we might have to talk about, but he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun yesterday. I heard from so many players that were played for me 10, 12 years ago, and it was just a lot of fun catching up.
You always play too some unbelievable courses. How did that change as well with the level of success that the Bison had? Were you able to get to other courses that maybe you couldn't when you first took the job?
Yeah, we I think one fall we were ranked as high as 73rd in the nation, and I think that's kind of when people started realizing that we had a good program up here. And we started getting invites to like Bethpage Black, Bandon Dunes. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years we've gone to some incredible places.
You got to Torrey Pines, correct?
Yeah, we played Torrey North 2 years ago, won the tournament there, and then this year we were at Torrey Pines South.
That's pretty.
And then that's probably one of the reasons I have to retire, because when we were there this year, the guys, we wanted to chip and putt a little bit, and there were no holes in the greens, so finally they said, "Hey, Coach, can we go to the beach?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." So we went to a beach, and Renee was with me on that trip, and so we didn't go down. It was a big descent down to the beach, and we get down, or they get down there, and they come back 2 hours later, and they get in the van. They go, "Hey, Coach, you took us to a nude beach." I said, "I did not." And they go, "Yeah, you did." It was so. I told Matt Larson that, and I thought maybe I was going to get fired right there, but it was okay.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
You probably made a good call then, right?
Yes. Well, and they told me it wasn't quite what they expected.
For people, obviously, myself, been around me for a while, know you from your days at Fargo South and what that meant to you. I'm sure you heard from a bunch of guys that you coached at South. What that mean to you yesterday?
Yeah, it did. I bet I had probably 20 players reach out to me that I coached at South, and and I had some former students and that I taught at South, and it's those relationships, they never go away. They pick up right where they left off, and so it was a special day.
Did you hear from Tom yesterday?
No, I didn't. He I don't know if he probably knows it, but I haven't heard from Tom yet. No.
I'm sure you'll hear from him soon enough. Just that alone, of that connection, to have that. I know we chatted when he went into the Fargo South Hall of Fame and how emotional that was for both of you guys. To have those memories and him be a part of that. What's that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a special time. It's I think I was out at Palm Springs this year when he was playing in that tournament. And, I was walking along with him, and he would come over 3 or 4 times during the round and just sit and visit with me. Awesome. And I thought, how cool is this? Here I am standing at a professional tournament, and this guy comes over and just starts talking about, not about golf, just about life and about what we're going to do tonight and stuff like that.
How often did that happen when you coached him?
Not very often.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I remember at one Pine to Paul, Renee was out there with me, and there was a delay on number 6, and Tom walked right by me and didn't say a word. And Renee said, "Is Tom mad at you?" I said, No, Tom just doesn't talk to you. He's loosened up over the years.
It seems that he's actually smiled on the course a few times I've seen this year. I don't remember that.
I know it. No, he's loosened up. I don't know, having a baby, maybe that helped.
Yeah.
I know Kelly has helped him.
No doubt about that. Does this mean you get some travel open up? You can go follow him a little bit more if you wanted to. So what are the immediate plans now?
Yeah, I think I'll do that a couple of times. We're going to go to Munich this fall and go to Oktoberfest.
Nice.
And then hopefully Renee and I will do some wintering someplace for a couple of weeks, maybe Hawaii or Florida or Arizona. I don't know. We've got a couple of weddings for players coming up here, so we'll stay in touch with them a little bit.
For whoever's hired next, what would you tell them? Piece of advice about the next men's golf coach at NDSU?
Be yourself. You got to be yourself and trust in what you believe. Every time a recruit came in, I would tell them that I'm a golf coach. I'm not a golf teacher. And so when they came in, they knew that I wasn't going to mess with their swing. I wasn't going to be tinkering with that. I was here to support them in many other ways. And I think they respected that. And then just be honest with them.
How important is that distinction, Steve, to be a coach, not a teacher, to not be overly hands-on, to start messing with guys' swings? How big a distinction is that?
Well, I think for me that was very important. And we always had the rule that if they wanted to talk to me at a tournament, they would tell me. Otherwise, I stayed away. It was you got to let them be athletes. You got to let them play. I see so many coaches overcoach at tournaments, and players they first of all, it takes 6 hours to play the round because they can't hit a shot without their coach. And I just see so much doubt.
Yeah.
And, our guys, it seemed like they trusted in themselves. All summer long, they play great when they're on their own. And so why change that?
Yeah. Two last things for you. I know you got to go to Augusta with Tom a couple years ago when he made it. Is there a course that you didn't get a chance to go to with NDSU you'd like to, or is there one? Boy, I would have loved to have us got there.
Ooh, well, that's we've been to so many great places. I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head. I would have said Bethpage, but that's going to be great to have the Ryder Cup there, and maybe another tournament in Hawaii. But other than that, the administration here has been great to us and great to me, and gave us the tools to compete, and so. No, it's been good.
Do we have a chance to win the Ryder Cup at Bethpage? You've been out there now. How tough is it going to be?
It's going to be very difficult. If they grow that rough up, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Last thing here, we'll get you in trouble. What's your favorite course in North Dakota to play? What's the one this is my favorite one?
Ooh, you are going to get me in trouble, aren't you?
You're retired. Come on.
I'm going to tell you where I play the best.
Okay.
And that I play Rose Creek the best.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just because I've been there so much and stuff, but the country club, it's a great course. It's maybe too tough for me. At Oxbow, I can play okay there, but the water, it's hard.
That's brutal down there.
Yes.
Was there ever like a weather event, coach in high school, where you're like, what in the world are we doing out here? Is there one that comes to mind?
I think it was one of my first ones out at Oxbow where it was like 31 degrees or something like that. And a kid came up to Don Johnson and said, "Coach, do we have to play?" And Don goes, "Well, yes, why?" And he goes, "Because look at this." And he took a Snicker bar out of his golf bag and it was frozen. I think that was one of them.
That's
but
fantastic.
We had a lot of memorable weather days where it was raining so hard that Don and I sat in the cover of his cart and just drive up to guys and say, "Let's go, come on, you can do it," and never got out of it. So
I remember being out there on some of those days, shooting highlights, seeing you and the late great Coach Johnson out there. Congratulations, man! I'm so happy for you and your wife. Enjoy some retirement. I'm going to miss seeing you on the link, so I know I'll get to see you sometimes, but not nearly as often as we had. Thanks so much for doing this, bud. Be well, okay?
Thank you very much, Dom.
There he goes, Steve Kennedy, now retired NDSU men's golf coach, former head coach at Fargo South. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. Summit League champs in 2018. Nate DeZiel won the Summit League individual title from East Grand Forks in 2022, and what he did at South will go forever. That's not going to be matched, and everyone will look at what Tom Hoagie did, and Tom was great. They had a bunch of others. Ben Freeman was an outstanding player at South. They had just... They showed up at state. They knew they were going to win. It was just by how much. And that was for 6 years running. South won the boys Class A golf championship. Congrats to Coach Kennedy. That was fun. We're overdue for a break. We'll get caught up here. We'll wrap up our first hour. Big second hour plan, including some more realignment news that broke before we hit the air this morning. Hot Mike rolls on. We're back after this. All right, thanks to Coach Kennedy for giving us a few minutes there. That was good stuff. Going to be interesting to see who takes over at NDSU for him. I got this sent in before we went to break from Bobby Nightingale, who covers the Twins for the Star Tribune. Hey, some mea culpa here because you said the Twins were done on April 12th, April 13th, April 14th, April 15th. It wasn't going well. Well, the best records in the American League entering today. Here it is. The Tigers, who are 19 games over 500. The Yankees and the Twins. The Twins have won 27 of their last 39. I think, actually, they have the identical record through this amount of games as they did last year. So let's just, pump the brakes a little bit because we know what happened at the end of last season. But the American League, which used to be top-heavy, not so much in 2025. Tigers, Yankees, Twins. Nobody from the American League West is in that conversation. Astros, Mariners. Nope. Heck, the American League East, Tampa, Toronto are over 500. Red Sox and Orioles are not. So as that stands, of course, the Twins couldn't, how the baseball structure works in the playoffs wouldn't be the third seed because that's not how it goes. But yeah, so they've played better, no doubt. Tip of the hat, what Rocco and team has done. They've pitched amazingly. There's no doubt. That's why the Lopez injury is such a kick in the you-know-what, because now that they're going to have to maneuver this maybe for the rest of the season. That's the tough blow there this morning. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. We'll catch up with our guy, Sam Goetzinger. We haven't seen him in a couple weeks after traveling the road. We'll do that on a Thursday morning edition of Hot Mike. Hour 2 coming up. We come back.
This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Let's take a moment and talk about bunions.
The original line read as this: bunions. You may have heard of them. That was my original line.
Hey, thank you, Dom. Johnny Cool Guys there with the sunglasses on.
That was off the dome
To the west of
when
Illinois.
I'm looking on it, like west. I
Yes,
shouldn't say
west.
right and left. Is that Missouri?
That is Missouri.
Yes.
That
It's
is
underneath
Missouri.
Iowa.
Way to go.
I'm getting good at this.
He's coming.
So we're going to like the bottom peninsula region.
Peninsula.
Okay, we're going to come back on the ETSU tailgate and then go to you. How am I going to go from a tailgate to bunions?
Okay, good deal. Let's take a moment and talk about bunions.
Well, let's take a moment and talk with our guy. We haven't seen
How's
you
it
in a little
going?
bit.
It's been a little bit, yeah. Been a couple weeks.
We had 2 emails come in. I've been saving this
Already,
for
huh?
a week here because we didn't see you last week because you were up in Grand Forks.
Yep.
All right, I'm not prepared. I got to get my email sounder here. We had a power bump or something here before the show went on. It happens way too often, but everything is discombobulated. Dom, can you ask Sam if he brought any sunscreen to Bismarck?
No, did not. I don't know if you can still see it. The little speck on my nose. This was a much bigger area, and it was just bleeding for a little while. I was burnt to a crisp, and
I told you before you left.
Well, yeah, and they had sunscreen. It was available to me. Like it wasn't far out of reach.
You decided not to use
But-
it. Elected not to use it.
So what day was it? It was Friday. When we first got on the air for the state track and field meet. It's cloudy and it's 60. I'm not going to get a sunburn in these conditions. And then by the time it's over, I can't like move without just something peeling off, skin peeling off of me. And then Saturday, I finally got the memo of sunscreen, but I think at that point
the battle was lost.
It was way too late,
Yeah.
and it was way hotter. It was way sunnier on Saturday, and and that hurt. It really hurt. My nose is healing.
Because I saw you You filled in on Memorial Day for Hot Mic.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that was bad.
Oh my god,
my forehead was peeling.
Now I've done it here. Like people have seen, like it's been. My forehead has been red from either Bison football game or whatever golf tournament I've been out at.
Like, and I had the forehead peel going. Luckily, I think it's gone. My arms were peeling the other day. I think that's done.
Skincare, man, is not a laughing matter. You got to take care of yourself.
I have a base layer for the summer. I'm good to go.
Okay,
yeah, I'm good.
Well,
I was noticing too. The sunburn didn't get up to like the top of my hairline, so it was a pretty noticeable difference. But that hurt. That hurt a lot.
Oh man. Well, the viewers cared because they emailed me and wanted to make sure that Sam was
good.
I was
really worried people were going to scold me, and my mom scolded me.
She should.
She saw that and was not a fan of my lack of decisions that were made, but it wasn't the top priority. Should have been.
So, give me your first trip out to Bismarck for state track.
Pretty crazy.
What'd you think?
Pretty crazy. I think I said it on the show, and I think I told everybody there that I'd never been to a state track or a track and field meet until then.
Period? Never been to one?
Never.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there looking around, seeing what's going on, how many people are there.
Yeah, it's a scene, man.
What these athletes are doing, it was just unreal. I couldn't believe it. That's a special type of athlete that competes at those things, and to see the amount of energy they exhaust into their events, and they're done with it, and they crash because they put their everything into it. That was a pretty cool experience. And then also to see how many of these kids are also doing this while playing baseball and also playing golf at the same time as well. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But it was super cool. And if you want to talk about organized chaos, I mean that's the best example of that. I don't know how they wrangle up these kids into the right spots, but they did, and it was a well-oiled machine.
They know what they're doing out there.
It was really fun. It was really fun to watch.
They don't mess around out there. They know exactly what, how to make it run well, how to make it pretty much on time. You guys were pretty close to being on time for having 1,800 people out there to compete over 3 days. And that was pretty good.
The amount of people up in the stands, and just the amount of athletes that are roaming around, and there were some pretty top-notch performances that week, too, which was really cool to see.
Now, last week you were up at Class A baseball at Kraft Field to call that tournament, which immediately on Saturday got thrust into a viral spotlight for a play that happened in the championship game. And we were talking about this on Tuesday. We had a pair of Cheyenne players that were here. Now, for those that missed it, we're going to play the play that happened in the second inning.
Top of the second inning,
between Minot and Cheyenne. Aiden Deal from Minot is trying to come in and score, and what happened after went viral. Is the best way to say it.
Well, and at the moment, and we'll see it here, I didn't think, like at this point, I didn't think it would be a viral moment.
Yeah.
So Aiden Deal's coming around third. Ball's not out. The main thing I'm focusing on is where the ball is at. And then the truck happens, and I'm, whoa. What,
right?
What just happened? And I think we'll see it again here. But I don't think myself, because I'm worried about the catcher.
Yes.
Jackson Zavadil. How is he doing?
Got blown up, man.
I didn't see the umpire give the signal for the ejection. I don't think anybody in the press box did either. So at that point, I don't know what you call that, because I've seen a lot of baseball, major leagues, the upper levels where that's safe at the plate. I had never seen that high school game before.
Man, that's just an all-out blast there.
That laid into him. And I got to give props to the catcher, Zavadil. He stayed in the game.
Yeah.
He took maybe 3 minutes to hop back up onto his feet and tell the coaches, I'm good. And then the next inning, he comes up and gets a base hit. Yeah, and it was impressive. I think he went 2 for 2 that day, or it was either that or the day before, but he had a big day at the plate. He ate that, though, and there was quite the deliberation on the call.
So let's re-rack it, Eric, if we can, because at the very end of it, you can see the umpire makes a very subtle gesture, because that's what the guys in the studio were telling me on Tuesday, because I didn't see it right away.
I didn't either.
Strecker actually picked up on it right after the collision at home. Aiden Deal, who's the base runner, and he's trying to make a play. I understand. He's trying to jar the ball loose here. But when he stood over Zavadil, watch the home plate umpire right there. See, he makes that gesture that you're out of the game.
I didn't see it. I don't think anybody in the press box saw it. So we didn't know that Aiden Deal was ejected unless I was just off in my own little world. And then we weren't 100% sure what they were going to rule this either, because there was quite the conversation between Coach Stenberg and Coach Belke as well from Minot and Cheyenne. And what I'm thinking, too, is, okay, was that the right thing to do as the base runner? Obviously, should slide, I would assume. But the catcher, I don't think, is in any bad spot here. He's trying to make a play on the ball. The ball is ahead of Aiden Deal coming in as well. And I've never umped a game in my life, so I don't know exactly the correct rulings on that. But I think he was in a right spot to be, Zavadil the catcher, to make a play on the ball. Just so happened the ball bounced out of the glove, and he probably didn't know that. And then the play came in. So I will apologize for those who were watching the game, because I did say Deal was still in the game. They subbed in a left-handed batter for a left-handed batter with the same bat and the same batting stance. So I didn't put two and two together. But it was a pretty wild deal. And really, when you think back on it, that however they called it could have changed the course of the game.
If he's safe,
it was a one-run game at the end of the deal.
Right.
Change momentum.
If they don't call him out and the run counts, it means Cheyenne won by one run.
Right, exactly. So, and that play, and you heard the two in here the other day, gave them momentum the rest of the way. And they did give up a little rally to Minot at the end of the game.
Yeah, made it a little
but
tight there.
I mean, that could have been all the difference. And Deal is their cleanup hitter,
that's a
left
big
fielder,
loss.
so that was a big loss the rest of the game as well. It was a crazy thing. I'd never seen that on a high school field before, and when I think it happened, it kind of, whoa, what just happened?
I was watching at home, getting ready to go up to Bison softball, or the Class B softball, to the Bison softball field, and I texted you right away. I'm like, is the catcher still in the game?
Yeah,
'cause that was a monster hit.
He shook it off like nothing happened, and my bell would have been rung.
Yeah,
I would have been out for until next season. But he's a tough kid.
I know you visited with the Cheyenne team afterwards, and I know you told us during the broadcast of the 3 days you were up there. That team literally needed a tiebreaker to get into the EDC tournament, let alone state, and then go and they win it.
Right. I found it interesting when Coach Belke was telling me in my conversation with him before the tournament is that every game down the stretch of the regular season felt like an elimination game. So they were in this do or die mode all throughout the rest of the way. I mean, the EDC was probably your only chance to breathe a little bit because that's double elimination, but They went into that EDC tournament and beat a really, really good Horace team who fell in their first game of the tournament. But that's a team that's super young, and they'll be there again. They have one of, if not the top baseball players in the state who's just a sophomore. And this Cheyenne team, they just kept on rolling. They lost a tough game in the EDC championship to Davies, but even to get to that point was a shock. And then to walk off the first game of state and then their second game to have a really good performance to get them into the championship. They had to hold off Fargo South from a late inning rally to get to the championship, hold off another late inning rally, and got the win. It was surprising. They were shocked. I think you could tell a little bit they were shocked on just the turnaround of the season, but they knew that they could do it as well. It was a really, really talented team.
We have Jory's on next. You got to give us a evaluation on Jet Collins, the baseball player.
Real deal.
Yeah.
He's a real deal. It was one of the games that
he plays for Horace.
It was one of the games that I was not there for, and if I remember correctly, he was the leadoff man. He had 2 doubles in their consolation final, I want to say it was, and
I think he had a home run as well.
I wouldn't doubt. Horace as a team had 4 home runs throughout the weekend. I don't think anybody else did.
Well, I mean, to hit a home run at Kraft Field, you got to get it in high school.
That's a ways.
I
want to say 315 to the corners, 385 to center, 355 to the gaps, and Horace was hitting it out of the ballpark. But he's a player. He's a player and a pretty good fielder as well. But I think in general, because that's a really young team, and if I remember right, Jet is a junior, and the amount of talent in the class of 2027 in North Dakota is unreal.
It's not just football, man. There's a lot of sports. It's really good.
Horace has a kid, Kason Borkhardt, who is phenomenal. He's a sophomore. South has a kid pumping 93 who's just a sophomore. The West had a couple of great sophomores as well. Even Cheyenne, this team that won state, they were led by a couple of sophomores down the stretch. So the 2027 class is really good.
So don't just restrict it to football is what you're telling me. Because we know football has right now 4 guys who are 4-star recruits in football.
Yeah.
Even the class of 2027.
I think they're going to get some pretty big name, pretty big time schools going after these kids for 2027.
Nice.
If I had to guess.
All right, let's break. We come back. We'll chat on the Bison portal departures in baseball and a couple other topics with Sam here on a Thursday morning edition of Hot Mic. We roll on. We're back right after this break. Look at that.
I love it.
Huh?
Kyle, is that what you've been working on?
$59.99?
Wow.
That sounds like a major ripoff, honestly.
I'm going to have to buy that and hang that up. I love that. That's awesome.
See.
Yeah, but with my face on there, that should be a lot more.
This
that
honestly, that should be your new social media profile.
Honestly,
That's
it
really
should.
good. That's fantastic.
I'm going to have to send that to me.
This is what happens for our entire crew. Now that we're done with live stuff.
Way too much
they
time
got
on their hands.
a ton of time
Way
now,
too much time.
So look out. That's fun. That's pretty good. Email came in. I want to read this as well. Dom, I know it's not best of the weekend, but shout out to Shane Hannengriffs and Minot North Sentinels Golf and making history by winning the school's first ever state championship. This is the first time since 2013 that a West team has won the Class A boys title. That's fantastic. Also great playing by sophomore Parker Beck. I saw that yesterday on the scoreboard from Bismarck Century. He shot 10 under.
Oh, my goodness.
For 2 days. He won by 9 shots to win the Class A boys golf title.
I was looking at some of the scores just to – I like to do – okay.
10 under through 2 rounds?
Right.
Is
it's unreal. I was looking
really
at them
good.
and thinking, okay, because I played golf in high school. Would I have been able to, have a shot at this? No chance. No chance. These guys are pretty much at par, and I couldn't believe it.
So
it was awesome.
That puts a bow on the entire North Dakota high school athletic year. And I was curious, there's a couple takeaways you had from you called nearly everything this year, whether it be football, wrestling, basketball, hockey. The couple moments that stand out, at least to me, obviously Kindred's basketball championship.
That was a big one.
Phenomenal.
That was a big one.
That's a win into the buzzer. That's going to stand out. Horace winning its first football title.
That was a huge one as well.
And girls basketball, you called that.
Yeah.
To show that they're here and they're not going anywhere, I think is important to note as we go forward. Minot North made the semifinals in football and now winning in golf. They're going to be on the scene, too, here going forward, I think is something to take note of.
Absolutely. I look back to wrestling, too, and just from, personal favorite moments, I thought that the
South Border win
that
was
South
something
Border
else.
Velva duel at the end there for
Yep.
the championship, that was crazy. Down the stretch, I thought that was a lot of fun. New Rockford Cheyenne setting a Dakota Bowl record for the amount of points they scored in that game. And
how many they hit? They hit 70?
66, I want to say, something like that. Yeah, it was might have been a little bit more. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was super cool. I always loved the state hockey tournament. I thought that was a really fun tournament this year, and I think we go to not to boost ourselves, but I think the coverage of everything this year was fantastic. I thought it was great, especially down the stretch here over the spring sports, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback, and I think it was really cool to showcase, these athletes that may not have gotten
they haven't
the platform that they should have gotten over the last couple of years. So I thought that was really cool to see them, because to see Central Cass do what they did in softball and Thompson do what they did in baseball, and to see a story like Cheyenne, I thought that was awesome. And even
Williston winning for the first time in softball.
Yeah.
Mandan won in soccer for the first time. Girls soccer for the first time.
And to give a bigger platform for track and field as well.
Absolutely.
Because I said it then, and I'll say it again until the end of time. Those are special athletes that are doing that stuff. And to show that, super cool.
Yeah, I'm interested, looking ahead now for 25, 26. There's going to be some new venues they're going to get a chance to host. You've been in Jamestown the last 2 years for the girls B.
Yep.
Jamestown now will get the girls A basketball tournament. We talked about this on Hot Mic. We were live last week up at NDSU about them hosting a bigger venue.
Yeah.
With them hosting bigger teams in that venue. How that's going to go.
I'm very curious about that as well. And we're working on something to talk about that over the summer here, and we'll get that up online as well. But I think the venue itself, the Civic Center, will have no problem. I think the community, though, with the amount with the amount of hotel space in there for larger towns coming in, that may be a bigger question. But I think the Civic Center should be able to handle that. They run a top-notch operation over there as well, and So I'm curious about that, and also softball's in Jamestown too.
Yep.
So we'll have to be on the lookout for that. And I'm excited to go to a couple of new places because next year we're going more west too, aren't we?
For the spring tournament season,
Yeah,
yes.
yep.
Jamestown has B, baseball and softball. Minot has A, baseball and softball. So that'll be interesting out there. That, especially now with television being in the mix, and this is something that I've talked about on this show, that needs to be considered now for sites. I know the High School Association likes to move it around and everybody
Right.
get a chance. I don't know if that's feasible.
Right.
There's a reason
Kinda
why
gotta pick your
track
spots.
is in
Yeah,
Bismarck.
yeah.
There's a reason why wrestling is here
Yeah.
and football is here. Especially now, it's televised. It's a different era now. It just is.
Exactly. And
You know?
there's something to it. Like when I was growing up in Minnesota, I mean, going to Target Field or the XL Energy Center for a state tournament, I mean, that was pretty cool. And they were in the same spot
Right, all the time.
All the time.
You knew where it's
or
at.
going to the barn for basketball and Target Center over there as well.
Yep.
If we're talking about venues, I want to go back up to Grand Forks this last weekend, Kraft Field. Fantastic what they've done.
I've not
over
been
there.
up there since it's been renovated with the stands. I've seen the
Yep.
field, but not the stands
It was
part.
it was the first time that I had been there ever,
Mm-hmm.
and the turf, infield, grass, outfield, and then the press box there as well, and just hearing from all the people that have been there when it was what it was, and to see where it's at now, I think they did a fantastic job with that. That's a pretty nice venue there up in Grand Forks.
Good to see on that. Couple things here. Bison baseball team lost 6 guys yesterday,
it's-
which, I mean, that par for the course now in college
Yeah.
athletics, but it's now, I think, for people around here, really? Baseball? Softball?
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens, and the amount of money that's going to get paid to some of these guys is going to be, some will say exorbitant, others will say it's market
Right.
value. Jake Schaffner is a all-summer league player 2 times over. He's going to get
Right.
paid by somebody to go to their school.
That's a top notch. It's a primo leadoff hitter and a pretty good, defensive player as well. So
Yep.
he's gonna do just fine. And I was in the same boat as everybody else. I didn't think other sports had the same portal. I wouldn't say issues, but same portal activity as like a football. Or a basketball, but I mean, it's out there. When I was at St. Cloud, their baseball team got ran through as well when they had a great year. And I look at this, and how are these mid-major programs supposed to keep that consistent level of getting to the regional, with guys who have done it before? It's
gonna be awfully
tough.
hard.
It's tough to see. Good for these kids. They're going to go on and, play at the big level. I'll never dog on anybody for making a jump. No doubt about that. And you're getting money in there as well. But for the program like NDSU, that's a tough pill to swallow. But it is what it is. I just don't know how you continue and maintain the level of success year after year after year when you got to rebuild your roster every single year. And I know it's a conversation that they've had with basketball as well. And it's not just a baseball or softball thing, but it's what can you do? I mean, really, what can you do?
You throw your hands up here if you're a coach.
Yeah.
Major, that's pretty much all I can do. Last email before we go. Sam, where can we find the new video game with you on it? People want to know.
Well,
already, it's coming in.
You're going to have to go through me personally. I got a stockpile up in the back. Emails are accepted. Shipping might be a little bit delayed, so don't bank
Shipping
on
not
that.
included is what you're
Shipping
saying?
is not included, and it might be slow, so don't bank on that.
Great stuff, man.
Absolutely.
This entire year, I thought you knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
I got more comments on your play-by-play than anything else that we did this year. People really enjoy you calling games.
I appreciate that.
And,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You guys did an awesome job, and appreciate that. I know you're going to take some time off this summer. You're going to fill in, I know, for me. And before we know it, we're going to be rocking and rolling in August with Bison football. Be right around the corner.
Yeah, looking forward
It's
to it.
86 days out. So there you go.
How many?
86.
86.
Yeah.
What is that? Couple months, huh?
It's exactly it.
Couple
man.
months, huh? Looking
Enjoy
forward
it.
to that.
Enjoy it.
Now I know sunscreen for the Citadel.
Oh my gosh, we're going to South Carolina, man.
I was sitting there in Bismarck. All I could think about was South Carolina's going to hurt. I don't care what their turf is like, if they've got it cooled off or not. This is going to be painful.
What you did at Johnson's? Did you not wear sunscreen in Johnson City when we went there?
I wore sunglasses.
Right, you wore the sunglasses.
Close enough.
That's okay.
I'm not going to wear a black suit the first 2 weeks of
No,
the
I would not do
season. I'm
that.
not
That
doing
would not be ill-advised.
Learn
I would
that
tell you
lesson
that.
in Colorado. Never
I would
do that.
start laying the track about a polo for sideline for.
It's honestly not a bad idea.
See?
Not a bad idea.
See, that, you look great. This is, I said, I called you Johnny Cool Guys on the air. You're looking
that
fantastic.
guy could use a little burn. You know? I just had to get it out of the way in Bismarck. Get me set for the summer.
But I would start laying the tracks with the boss about, hey, it might be 85, 90. How about during the game, could I wear a polo?
Okay. That's a good
Suit
call.
for game day.
That's a good call.
Suit for the pregame.
Okay.
And then we're literally on the air 5 minutes after pregame is done.
When am I supposed to make this Superman change?
Clark Kent change underneath the stadium.
Okay.
And then bam, first sideline hit, you're ready to go.
All right, I'm going to immediately walk upstairs and start demanding a polo for week
Just
1 and 2 because I feel like Nashville will be hot too.
Yes, don't demand. Just, hey, looking at the weather, what do you think about?
I'm going to come in guns blazing. All right. It's either going to happen or it's not.
Thanks for joining us. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Sam Goetzinger joining us each and every Thursday at 10 o'clock. We'll break. We come back. We haven't seen him in a bit. Jory Collins will join us. Bison women's basketball head coach on the offseason. Additions to the roster and looking ahead to a couple of fun games they got coming up next year. We'll do that on the other side of the break. Welcome back, everybody. Thursday morning show rolls on. Hey, tomorrow on the show, Corey Provis will join us, of course, back from the Twins road trip. Also, the new Missouri Valley Football Conference Chief Operating Officer, just announced yesterday, Eric Grooms will join us about what his official job is and what he's going to be doing in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. That's coming up tomorrow, so looking forward to that. Our next guest we have not chatted with since basically the season ended, which is hard to believe, over 2 months ago. The Bison women's basketball team been busy, added a couple players through the transfer portal. Found out yesterday in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge, the games they're going to have, which includes the reigning Big Sky champions, Montana State, will be coming to Fargo for a game in December. Great to see Jory Collins back with us. Sam Goetzinger was just on. He called the Class A tournament. He gave us the scouting report on one Jet Collins. Did you get to see Sam up in Grand Forks last week?
Well, I didn't get to see him because he was up in he was up in the booth, I think, the whole time calling the game. So I didn't see him. But I haven't reached out to him, but Sam did an awesome job.
Awesome.
Calling the baseball games. I can't believe he's doing that all day long. There was some busy days, but he was fantastic on the stream.
I will pass that along. You did a great job.
He did a great job.
So has baseball always been in the bloodlines of the Collins family? Was that something you grew up with as well?
I played a lot when I was a kid, but a younger kid, Dom, and I probably quit playing. I think I gave up on baseball probably 8th grade and just did basketball and football and went fishing in high school. That was my 3 sports. My high school class ring has basketball and fishing on it. That's what's on my high school class ring.
Fantastic.
I had about 3 buddies. We thought we were going to be pro fishermen for a long time when we were young.
What were you fishing for?
Back in Kansas, we were bass fishing, cat fishing, all that stuff. But, I did enjoy baseball. I was a little bit, if I wasn't pitching, I got a little bored out there. But for whatever reason, my young Jet, when he was younger, just had an affinity for it and had some natural ability with it, good hands and stuff. And so we just kind of went with it. Yeah, I enjoy it because it's out of my season. It's a different season, different environment.
And you're outside, right, man? This is the one time.
I love it. Yes.
I was going to say, I was joking with you.
Plenty of time in the gym.
I was joking with you off air. This is one of the rare moments we got you not on the baseball diamond this morning.
That's right.
Yeah, the season was great. Horace has got a dynamite team. His couple of his teammates are, along with him, pretty darn good. They're going to be good again next season.
Yeah, we should be loaded up. Should be a lot of fun here.
Well, I mentioned off the top, you're starting to get a little piece of your schedule here. You now know your Big Sky opponents, and obviously where you finish means you're going to play the top half of the Big Sky. Describe the games you got coming up for next season.
Yeah, I mean, exciting. Obviously, Montana State was terrific last year, and I know they had some kids that graduated and moved on, but they still have a pretty good core coming back. So, she does a terrific job with what they do, and have always been successful. That'll be obviously a tough game, but it should be a lot of fun getting to host them this time. They kicked our butt there, whenever that was, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And then, honestly, Weber State, I don't know a ton about them. Haven't crossed paths with them yet, so that's exciting to get to go to a place we haven't been before. Flying into Utah there and go be able to check that out. So good matchups all around, it looked like, and obviously an exciting thing for us.
I know you talked to our friends over at Bison 1660. It sounds like Gonzaga is going to come to Fargo. Is that for real going to happen?
Yep, starting a home and home.
Wow.
I think I'd have to look, Dom, for the date, but I think it's that first Friday. I think maybe the 7th. We'll get that out as soon as we can get our stuff finalized, but that's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, we've been trying to actually play them the last 2 to 3 years and just could not find dates that worked for both of us. So, to be able to get them to come and play in a true home and home, is a lot of fun also.
Is that something, Jory, they reach out, or is that mutual? How does that all come about when you're trying to schedule something like that?
You know what? When you're really trying to schedule time, you go out on the road, you're at these recruiting things, who you're sitting by. Hey, you guys need games. We need games. What dates do you have? I mean, that's going around all the time.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have a ton of respect for their program and how good they are. And it's we want to challenge. We try to be strategic about where we're challenging ourselves in the non-con and trying to mix games that do that, trying to mix games you think you can win. I mean, there's a little art and science both to trying to do that. You obviously don't get all the choices that you want all the time. But like I said, I think it wasn't last year's the year before. I really thought we had it done and then just couldn't do it. Either they, have a game too close or we had a game too close where we had to travel. But I'm glad we got it worked out.
And I know you went to Tulane last year. Are they coming back this year?
Yeah, Tulane will be here.
Nice.
This year. I think they're probably the next Friday, I think. So we got a chance to have, back-to-back good Friday night home games. A couple of just name teams I think is always nice to have in the non-con. And then obviously we're not opening, but we're going to be pretty quick, playing Nebraska at the Pentagon again. So it'll be challenging schedule, obviously, but, a lot of great teams and great some Midwest opponent there in Nebraska too.
To go back to the Pentagon, you did that a couple years ago with Creighton, and obviously knew how good they were. Is that you welcome that with open, like, hey, Amy Williams, her well about what Nebraska brings to the table?
Yeah, I mean they're going to be great. They're one of the best freshmen in the country last year, but the rest of their team, and we obviously know Logan well there, and some of their other players and kids we tried to recruit even. Callan Hake's a great player for them too, and. It's just one of those early season contests. Let's go see where we're at against a Big Ten opponent that's going to make the NCAA tournament, and it's just a great challenge.
We have not had a chance to speak since the season ended, and now you're a couple months removed, and obviously you wanted to win that Troy game badly. How now? And we talked after the game in Sioux Falls at the Summer League tournament. How now you take a step back? Do you evaluate what happened in 24-25?
Yeah, I mean, up and down, Dom. Our particular team this year, I thought, weren't as consistent, and I think that was pretty reasonable given the youth that we were playing and maybe some new players in new roles. I thought it was a good year. I think I was hoping to not. I think we lost about 3 games during the year, Dom. I don't think we should have lost. And that's the disappointing thing. Hey, you're playing the top teams. You're not going to beat everybody every time. But there was a couple games, and no disrespect to Kansas City, but, that's the whatever matchup that was. We're supposed to win that game in our mind, and we didn't get it done. That was super disappointing. What I was really proud of our team of is the mental switch. We took some days off after that. We came back, and everybody was adamant about wanting to compete again and play in the WNIT, where a lot of teams are like, hey, let's just shut it down and move on to next year. And then we came out and played some of our best basketball in those 3 games, and it was awesome to get to play at home. Probably carried us to a couple wins there. And then, I know we didn't win the Troy game. They're a great team. We knew that from playing them in Alaska. But I thought we were super competitive, and I thought it was a really fun game regardless. And I was proud of our team and how they handled all that.
You're in the rare position in the mid-major where you're bringing back quite a bit of your team. For people that don't know, Jory, how much of an anomaly is your roster for next season? You're bringing back quite a bit for next year.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. And I've had every one of my friends, or we go all these things, hey, how the portal, what happened? And I'm like, we lost one who was redshirting. Other than that, for this era, we were pretty unscathed. I said probably never happen again. But this particular off season for us has been fairly quiet. Obviously had some recruiting to do, but nothing, out of the ordinary or nothing that dragged on for 8 to 10 weeks like it can for a lot of teams when you're in a position where you have to go get 6, 7, 8 kids. That's a lot of work that takes a lot of time. So very fortunate there. We didn't have a long postseason, Dom, just because we played all the way, I think, till the 31st of March. So once you give them, the week, 10 days off to recover postseason, you really ended up with a 3.5-week postseason really before finals. But it was still good. It was still got a chance to get in and get some work and attack some weaknesses with our team. And they've been off here for a little bit in May. We're going to start again on Monday, 7:30, and first chance to work with our group and a couple of the newcomers too. So always exciting when you start a new year.
Right after the season ended was the addition of Jossie Schiller. Give us the breakdown on how that come about and what can she do for your roster.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty quick thing. Once she went in the portal, just being who she is and where she's from, that was a no-brainer for us to reach out. And I think in her mind, she had plenty of other really nice offers, but I think in her mind, she's a North Dakota kid, and if it was going to work here, I think that was going to be her preference in getting to continue to rep her home state and be close to home and all those things. So that was just an easy fit, I think, for both of us. The thing about Jossie that we got to see firsthand as an opponent last year, and what I got to watch her in high school, is just her competitive fire, her ability to just make plays when necessary. She's just tough, very good athlete. It was able to make her teammates better. She had a lot of pressure on her last year as a freshman.
Yeah.
I mean, they asked her to do a lot. And I thought she rose to the occasion most of the time and was able to handle that. My hope for her here is that she's going to get to share the load a little bit more and allow her to be fresher longer and just as impactful as she was last year, but probably with some other people that have the same ability and make us a more well-rounded team.
You added also some post presence in Lily Niebuhr. Give us the backstory on that from coming from Indiana State and what you're expecting or hoping that she can provide to your roster.
Yeah, Lily's been in a tough situation at Indiana State. She was out hurt last year. Tons of potential there, but she's had 3 head coaches in 3 years. And I don't know that they had a team in the spring here. I think every single person was in the portal and gone. And, she needed an environment change and just kind of a fresh start. I mean, she's a big, strong, physical kid. And that's something where we felt like, Mariley's having a little off-season surgery here. Obviously well on track to be back and recover, but in our mind, you never know when you're going under the knife in any situation. There's always risks there, and so we were pretty straightforward with Lily and what the opportunity was here to come and add depth to our post presence and be a physical player and give her a fresh start and fresh opportunity to go out and earn some minutes. And she jumped at the chance, and I'm excited to get her in here, like I said, Monday morning, and see where she's at and see where we can get throughout the 8-week summer workout and what that ends up being. But it's exciting to have depth is huge in a years where there's just injuries or sickness or whatever. You don't want that to have to cost you a game. If somebody has to miss 3 games with a rolled ankle, does that mean we're going to lose 1 or 2 just because? Or do we have the pieces there to kind of weather that? And that's been important for me to try to put together here.
Last thing before I let you go, and it's great to catch up, but there's 3 new coaches in the league for this upcoming year. Is that something you reach out? Do you talk to the new ones, or is that something you wait till you get closer to the year on the new ones that took over?
Yeah, it's I've known Dennis, so I text Dennis congratulations, and we talk anyways. I've known Sophie at Oral Roberts since she was at Southwestern Oklahoma. As an assistant there. Jamie's the one that I haven't got to meet yet. Obviously know Jamie.
Yeah.
Just how great a player she was. and have kind of followed her as a player, and then know where she's been coaching wise with Karen and being able to be on some really good staffs there. So I'm looking forward to meeting Jamie. She got great basketball experience at, just about every level there is. But it'd be interesting. I feel old. I'm like the second most tenured coach on the women's side, and I still feel like I just got here. But dang.
Yeah, getting old, man.
A lot of fresh faces.
Yeah, that's exactly right. By the way, before we go, I saw this totally coincidental that you were be on the show. I don't know if you Emporia State announced new football logo helmets yesterday. Did you see this? I'll have to send it to you. Yes. We'll have to put them. Yeah,
I have. So no Power E on there, or what?
Well, it's a change. I think they got the horn on one side, but I'll send it to you afterwards because.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
I don't know if
Coach Higgins does a great job there, but I want to see that.
I don't know if they ask you before they do anything like that. That's a big deal. You're a big deal there, so I want to make sure that they sign off on that.
They're not going to get my opinion on the football helmets.
It's great to catch up, bud. Have a great summer. We'll see you soon, okay?
I will. Sounds good, Dom. Thank you.
Jory Collins, NDSU women's basketball head coach, giving us an update on the women's program. A couple of games we know. So there you go. Gonzaga and Tulane are coming to Fargo. And that go on top of how they ended last season. I mean, Washington State, New Mexico State, Troy. That was great environment. That's a heck of a way to leap off the new year with getting. And I know they got to play the non-D1s, but that's some way to get some butts in the seats with some recognizable names that are going to be coming to Fargo to start the year. Good stuff there. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll get you ready for a great Sports Thursday. A lot of good stuff happening today. We'll get you ready for it when Hot Mike wraps right after this. Is this breaking news in our show? What is that? Maddie's by the elevator here. Who got the video? That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad he's out of it. This should be a lesson to anyone in the building. Do not go in that elevator. We're glad he got out. Oh, man. Only to Sam. Oh, glad he's okay. Holy cow. Yeah, you can't pay maybe enough money to go in that elevator. No, thank you. All right, a couple things here before we go. Email comes in. Morning, Dom. You made mention of certain schools being good travel partners with another school today and in past shows. What does this mean, and can you share a few examples? Real quick, it happens in sports like basketball, volleyball, soccer. In the Summit League, for the best example, North Dakota State and North Dakota are travel partners. So in basketball, if the Bison were to go to Denver on a Thursday and UND goes to Oral Roberts on a Thursday night, then they flip. The Bison are at ORU on Saturday, and UND would go to Denver. That's how it works. That's what we talk about when we talk about travel partners, which in sports like basketball, volleyball, soccer, they're looking to save as much money as they can and hit as many places as they can on one road trip. That's why when you looked at that map of the WAC, by the Texas schools would be pretty. It doesn't matter. Football, it doesn't matter. It's the other sports, specifically basketball, that we're talking about in that. The other big news today, and we hinted at this when Sam Herder joined us on Monday, Villanova officially is gone from the CAA. The Wildcats are heading to the Patriot League in football. So this is now the third major CAA team to leave since James Madison made its move to FBS. Villanova gone. More on that coming up on the show tomorrow. We got a roll here. Let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. I don't think Justin's turned a quicker piece of video in his entire time working with us. Sponsored by Northwestern Mutual here. Twins and the A's coming up 2:30. If you've missed the night games from Sacramento, you can check out the ballpark today. That's at 2:30. Game 1, NBA Finals. Pacers Thunder tonight on WDAY at 7:30. And Game 2 of the Softball World Series, a Texas wins the national championship. Our thanks to Steve Kennedy, Sam Goetzinger, and Jory Collins. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Everybody have a great Thursday. And we'll see you back here tomorrow to wrap the week on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com.